Finances and God. What a great subject. Anne and I started to what's called live by faith when I'd left the university and left the training for the Methodist ministry. I'd done 6 years training. We had zero money. After 6 years of college and university, you don't have any money left, that's for sure. And we were living downstairs in my mother's house. And God said to me one day, He talked to me about giving money. And I said, well, God, I've given you everything. I would have had a farm, very prosperous farm. I gave that to you. I gave you the land that I'd bought before I got saved. I don't have anything to give you, really. And he said, what have you got in your pocket? And I had $10 in my pocket, a $10 note. And it was such a real presence of God and conversation I was having that I took out that $10. I said, this is what I've got, God. But I don't know if we've hardly got a bank account, hardly anything in it. Maybe $15, maybe $20, that'd be it. He said, well, you haven't given me that, the $10 I'm talking about. And I said, God, I'm married. I've got little children. This is all I've got. And he said to me, why don't you give it to me? And I felt God was being really hard. And I said, all right, then I'll give it to you. But you've got to feed my children, or else I'll walk away, I'll get a job, and I can work hard, I can go and feed my own children. And I did have some anger in my heart that God would ask me for that $10. By the way, I'm not asking anybody else to do this. So I went to church next Sunday, I put the $10 in the plate. We really had nothing. And then I got invited to speak to a house group. So I went to that house group and I spoke to them. And at the end, they didn't take up an offering in my presence, but they handed me some money. I forget how much. It was a lot more than the $10. Might have been $30, something like that. And I said, wow, God, that's wonderful. And then I got invitations to speak in houses, in a hay shed, in halls, in 4 or 5 nights a week. And people would give me sums of money after I'd spoken. And we lived. We didn't get wealthy, but we always lived. I went to New Zealand. The man paid my fare to speak at his church. A great man, Peter Morrow. Some people listening in Australia, New Zealand would know Peter Morrow. We became very good friends. His wife, Anne, is such a gracious lady. I saw her a few years ago over in Christchurch. And we spoke for him and he gave us an offering, and then I was going to Wanganui, Wanganui, that's right. And we had a revival in Wanganui. I was there for a week, then I was going to come home. But we had miracles every night. The hall held about 400 people. It was packed to the doors every night. It was like miracles galore were happening, all sorts of miracles. People getting saved every night, lots of people. Every night they were handing me some money or whatever. And then God spoke to me. And he said, I want you to get a caravan. And he didn't say this, but I just knew this. Well, I could have Anne and the children over then. And so I said to the pastor, I said, do you know where they sell caravans around here, second-hand ones? He said, yes, in Levin. So we drove to Levin, and I saw this caravan that a family, 3 little children and parents could live in. But it was $4,000. And that was like $1 million to me. And so I looked at it and I thanked the man and we drove back home. That night we had another meeting, a great meeting, packed to the hilt again. I remember a Catholic priest coming out of that meeting. And he looked at me and you could see that he was stunned in his mind. And I was a bit stunned too by what God was doing. I'd never seen, well, I had seen God do things like that, but not in such a concentrated form. And he said, this is like miracles on wholesale. And as I went out, there was an elderly couple walked out and they said, Pastor Taylor, do you have a need of some sort? I said, no, I don't, I'm fine. And they asked me a second time. I said, look, I'm fine, thank you. I've made a practice of never telling people any needs that I have. God knows my needs. God can look after them. And much of my life I've spent living by faith. Just God looking after me. It's not necessarily a way to get wealthy, but I've never set out to get wealthy. I could have been wealthier had I stayed home on the farm. I wanted to follow God and find all that God had for me. On the way out, those people came back and they said, Pastor Taylor, I am sorry, but you must have a need because God woke us this morning and told us we were to meet your need. And he talked to us both separately. So we would like to know, what is your need? Well, I felt embarrassed. I usually have with people giving me things. And I said, oh, look, the only thing I have is a want. It's not really a need. I wanted to buy a caravan so I could have my wife and children with me because I'd had a lot of other invitations by now and I didn't want to spend months away from my children. We actually were in New Zealand for 18 months, that trip, and they all just kept invitations coming. And they said, how much is it? I said, look, I'm too embarrassed to tell you, it's quite a lot of money. They said, please tell us. I said, it's $4,000. They said, we'll give you the cash tomorrow, and when you finally leave New Zealand, sell the caravan, and whatever you get for it, give it to us, and that'll be right. The rest of it will be forgiven. Well, I was really amazed and happy, and I thanked them very sincerely. And next day I went down and bought the caravan. I phoned Anne, and I said, Anne, bring the children over. And we've got a caravan. And I bought an old Vauxhall. It looked like it was on its last legs, but actually it's towed that caravan through the hills and mountains of New Zealand for 18 months. Never missed a beat. And the children and Anne and I saw God do amazing things over that 18 months. That all came about by me giving God $10 and even being a bit angry with God that he would ask me for $10. Well, we sold the caravan and I got exactly $4,000 for it. I took it back to that couple and gave it to them and thanked them from the bottom of my heart that they were so kind. Many stories I could tell you like that. Many, many stories. Your finances and God. Talk to God. Ask God what you should do. I don't mean what you should give. He might ask you to give some money. He may not. But make God your God. Make him your friend. He'll look after your finances. Even in this lockdown, God can get things to you. He's got millions of angels. God will find a way to you. Please talk to God. Please tell him your needs. Ask him about it. He'll look after you. He is your Father. God bless you. and I hope you trust God.